from whatever part of the globe you are watching us from. This is Richard Mwenja Exclusive, your home when it comes to analysis on matters, politics and governance in this country and across the region. I'm Richard Mwenja, such a distinct privilege to have your company with us. And today we continue spearheading and unpacking conversations that are shaping Kenya's political and governance landscape. And I have your favorite think tank, Honorable Kipruto Arap-Kiro, with me to at least bring the conversation home. Let me now bring him to your screens. Former Minister, how are you doing today?
Quite okay.
You're well?
Yeah, very well, and I thank God for it.
Back to your trademark counter suits?
Yeah, I like it. Now it's warmer. So I need to be more on counter suits. And it has nothing to do with the state of the nation.
Really?
It has to do with this one I've worn since 1981.
So no correlation between your counter suits and the devil in the picture?
Well, possibly the devil copies the things they like to copy. But I don't know. Yes.
We are at a time whereby political temperatures in this country continue to rise steadily, and more particularly, the DP Rigathi Gachagua is continuing to battle his impeachment. But many people want to understand this from how it has been conducted, from the public participation, the conduct of his defense before National Assembly, and also the submissions that came from that particular standpoint. This far, do you see this as a legal process, political process, or it's a cocktail of both? And how is it likely to pan out?
Well, it has many processes. One, we are testing the capacity of our constitution to be able to protect the rights of every individual, regardless of the grounds against him or her. The second issue is, of course, the legal process that has to go through Parliament. But as it goes through Parliament, it must meet the threshold. And the third issue is the political process, because it's politically engineered. Because any keen observer, and you don't have to be a lawyer, any keen observer of the 11 grounds that were raised against him, and listening to the deliberations in the chamber at the plenary, it was clear that the case they were prosecuting and the grounds they had raised were totally at variance with each other. You go talking about the fact that, yes, about the state of the late Rigathi Gachagua, totally irrelevant from the issue. You talk about treason, not raised in the 11 grounds. You talk about acquisition of wealth, not clearly directing us how, in terms of specifics. Have you got him has he been raised by the anti-corruption authority, or is he in court battling some of those grounds? So it was very clear it was a process of lynching, something that has become popular in Kenya, that we call you a bad name and we lynch you regardless of the consequences, such as the one now we have. There are also a number of other issues that it is important, and I hope the Senate, in their own wisdom, the senators in their own wisdom will be able to engage those grounds one at a time, and whether they meet the constitutional threshold. Because you see, when you make such accusations, they must meet constitutional threshold, because Gachagua's impeachment is not going to be the first, nor is it going to be the last.
So yours is the invitation for them to audit every count that Gachagua has been charged with?
Yes, every count. And in the process, they should be able to drop a number of them. You see, remember there are 11. And if it's found guilty of one, it's as good as being found guilty of all the 11.
Okay.
And what is important, Richard, is the issue of technicality. You saw the one of Honorable Dr. Eric Mutai,
Kericho governor,
where they realized, even for that thing to leave Kericho and to be brought to the Senate was technically flawed. And in fact, I was wondering why it had become a motion if they had found there was some technicality. Then I saw Mrs. Karanja moving, and that thing being a motion, which means if senators were malicious, despite the fact that it never met the threshold in terms of the number, 2/3, because they're not half human beings. It means if the motion was negated, they would have continued discussing something that is flawed ab initio, because the foundation of that motion was flawed.
Dead on arrival from
Dead on arrival, it should not even have been received from Kericho. Kericho could have been advised that yes, we've received these documents, about 1 to 3, but they don't meet the threshold. So it was a waste of our resources, it was a waste of time, and we didn't have to engage to that level. Amason King, the Speaker of the Senate, is a lawyer. I hope he will be able to advise us better on that. Because if something does not meet technical threshold, on that ground, it should have been terminated without necessarily engaging the time of Senate. So those are some of the issues that I feel. What we're doing, we are making it look like it's a small case. For me, it's not a small case. We are setting precedents. Number 2, remember, we don't have rules on what is the threshold and what is the process of public participation. So the public participation that was a charade organized on 4th and 5th of this month is something that even if the Senate does ignore, I hope the High Court or whatever the court, judiciary will not ignore that particular issue, that thing was shrouded in mystery, and the figures that were brought in terms of probability, I wish they had said 55-45, but to say 66-34,
yeah.
Nothing can be further from the truth, because many people, even supporters of the president, they were very clear this impeachment is uncalled for. The second issue is that I would want Parliament, that is National Assembly and the Senate, to enact laws on the process of impeachment. They are only mentioned in the Constitution, but there are no clear laws that spell out this is how the impeachment process should go, and this is how it should end, and this is what it means, so that the accused and the accusers are given fair
trial.
Fair trial and a fair chance to prosecute their case. Because we are not saying don't impeach Gachagua, but must you impeach him in a way that it is akin to public mob justice. This is what I'm seeing, and this is what is happening. And even those, and you know, there is something that is very, very important. We are polarizing the country.
We are?
Those who are supporting Gachagua don't want to see a name coming from the other side. And those who are supporting the president in certain forums.
To bring that into context, over the weekend we saw a number of legislators, when they were going at the grassroots level, being chased away for having voted for the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua. Is that part of the polarization you're talking about that's already kicking in?
It is kicking in. And you see, those who know the history of this country, we've not been sitting pretty for the 24 years of President Moi. Some section of the country were feeling Kalenjins were having an unfair share of the leadership. Prior to that, there was a talk that the Kikuyus were enjoying without let the resources of the country. Then it has continued back and forth, and we thought the Ruto regime was going to bring peace among the nations, the nationals of Kenya, particularly between the two communities. But we see the rift is now widening.
We are reversing the gains we had made?
We are actually destroying any gains that we've made towards national unity, national cohesion, and the true national, genuine national integration. Because it's important for us to realize that at the beginning of time, we were just a conclave called Kenya, because the British decided to occupy this place. But over the years, we should have been able to build a nation instead of just calling ourselves Kenyans when we don't like each other. It is worrying me, and it worries me every day, because I have children all over the country. Some are married in Muranga, some are married elsewhere, and we've also married from all over the country. So when you make a lot of acrimony about some of these issues, you are making us feel the future of our children is not secure. It is very easy to put something into a national crisis, just starting small. You remember even the First World War was very simple. Somebody shot another one, and the First World War engulfed the entire planet.
So by going hard on Gachagua, we could actually be creating a monster
We are creating a monster, and you've made him so popular. Many people would not have voted even 2 million votes for Gachagua. Today, if you went to the ballot, you will either be number 1 or number 2, depending on who other players are.
You've mentioned that we are polarizing the country, looking at the realities of today, but is the president blinded to these realities, or he's the chief architect in this sort of manufactured doom for Gachagua?
Well, he's the first mover, he's the seconder, and the determinant of the motion. You cannot say National Assembly 281 members of parliament voted without either tacit approval or with nudging from the president. And you know, when you nudge somebody, you also prop him with a bit of goodies that will make him feel oily.
Remember, he has maintained pin drop silence on Gachagua impeachment issue. That's portraying him as a neutral card on the matter.
You remember earlier on, he stayed a motion of impeachment against Gachagua. After touring central Kenya, they came back and he told members of parliament this motion should be dropped. What is making him so quiet today about it? He's not oblivious of the fact that Gachagua has destabilized the mountain. Whether Gachagua is forgiven or whether Gachagua is impeached or not, the mountain has moved. And I think that is what is hurting William Ruto. He has never lost an election, but he has the next one to lose.
This far, there are sections who believe that President William Ruto is using Moi's political playbook to manage the politics of today. You've been there during Moi tenure as a member of parliament for Cherangani constituency. How true is that correlation between Moi and Ruto on governance and leadership?
Well, I understood Moi. I was in his party for 15 years as a member of parliament for Cherangani. I was in NAC for 5 years. So out of my 20 years as a member of parliament, I served with Moi for 15 years, which is 3/4 of the time I was an MP. I was in his party. Moi was more disciplined. He was more organized. He could have been brutal dealing with opponents, but at least he had some measure of consideration. Remember, he was operating under the old constitution. President William Ruto is operating under 2010 constitution, which is robust in terms of the rights of individuals, in terms of expression, in terms of all these things. Moi hardly went against the constitution. Remember, even detention was ingrained in the constitution. So whatever he did, he was very careful not to go against the constitution. And it is very clear that yes, he could have been as harsh as he was, but he was dealing with within the confines of the constitution. But you know, some people, at times they want to draw parallels and reduce us to just this is another Kalonzo government, which I don't subscribe to. I don't think Ruto is behaving that way because he's a Kalonzo. He's behaving that way because that is part of his DNA. There's no time Ruto has stayed with somebody for long.
He's now staying with Haiti, remaining the Good Samaritan. Now another batch of 600 askaris are yet to be deployed.
Please. Let's write about Haiti when the mission is over and they will have delivered. There may be very interesting stories to be said. Since 1939, there is no mission in Haiti that has succeeded, even from big powers.
He could make a fast.
Well, let him make. I will be happy and I will be glad because I don't wish that our children die in Haiti.
But as it stands, are you skeptical about the Haiti deal? The Prime Minister was here the other day, warmly embraced.
Who elected that Prime Minister? Please, let us be dealing with issues that are genuine. These are make-believe individuals who are given positions for the temporary custody of certain local arrangements spearheaded by America because of the minerals in Haiti. All these things are happening. It's a concoction of making money.
Could there be a deal for a president in the Haiti mission?
I've always told you, Richard, and I don't know for how many times will I tell you to understand. Ruto will not do anything unless there is something in it for him.
This is the same thing that has made you to receive so much backlash from Kalenjin allied politicians.
No,
and you seem to be going on with it.
They don't
Aren't you afraid about that?
They don't understand me. I told them the character of Gachagua and that of Ruto were incompatible. And I was saying it as a student who has done industrial psychology. Today, they are not saying anything about that because the two of them are made of the same material, combative, unwilling to budge, and that's why they are fighting. But for me, it's a very interesting impeachment process because I'm learning.
You're learning?
And I'm putting in the annals of history
But your insights are going to make you now to start walking in town while watching your shoulders.
Why?
There could be people paying for your blood. I mean, look at how combative you've been about the subject, especially from the president's men who are endorsing it.
Okay,
Impeachment.
Okay, if I die of road accident or I die of somebody knocking me down in the street, death is death.
Something must kill a man.
Well, you usually say when a man is killed, there are two reasons. Well, and when a cow dies, there is one reason. A man will be said he misadvised himself or he was bewitched. So, whichever is the case, I don't know. And when the cow dies, we sell the meat and we get the grains.
You seem to have made up your mind about your safety and all that. And equally so has Rigathi Gachagua about his impeachment.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, he said, let God's will prevail.
Yeah.
If I have to go, let me go.
Yeah.
But let me ask,
I think
has
I've
he
come
danced too soon to that tune of giving up?
No, he's not giving up. What he's saying is that the due process must be pursued. And one day, he may have the last laugh.
He may?
He may.
But in the event that he's ousted out of office, do you think he'll still have that political infrastructure within himself, or even gravitas, to still be a kingmaker outside the main arrangement?
We are yet to write obituary of Rigathi Gachagua. Remember, even if he's removed out of, if Senate affirms the position of the National Assembly, he's still got the recourse in a court of law. And that court of law might find a technicality that will knock out possibility of Gachagua being removed.
Even at a time whereby National Assembly has actually presented a truckload of evidence. Did you see the cartons?
Well, Raila brought 2 lorries or 3, but he lost the case when it came to 2022.
So the quantum of evidence from National Assembly doesn't convince you that Rigathi is going to lose?
Evidence is in terms of quality. Does it meet the threshold? If you brought that this company, 21 companies belong to him, and you are bringing articles of association, whatever, it doesn't amount to anything. Are they really trying to justify the 11 grounds they raised against the deputy president? So the answer is no.
So even the truckload of evidence, was it to instill fear?
Well, it's just to create a situation of make-believe, that of case we have won, and therefore the rest is history. It is not yet won until it is over. Yeah, and I want to assure you, even if, let's say, they went to the judiciary, and I'm happy, Justice Martha Koome has appointed a bench of a panel of 3, which I do hope they will be able to scrutinize each of those grounds and also the process itself. You remember the 2027 general election was the presidential election was annulled on the basis of flawed process. So if the process of public participation is flawed, which I know it is, because you cannot tell us that those are the figures, how do they collect those figures? How do they collect it? This thing is likely to fumble. And when he fumbles it, or assume even if it went through the 3-bench panel, they still got another technicality.
Which is?
Which is if you picked somebody else as a deputy president nominee, it has to go through the Electoral Commission to say does it meet the threshold in terms of qualification.
But in this particular context, we are seeing IBC it has not been reconstituted.
That is where the technicality is. And you must do it within 14 days. After 14 days, it will have lapsed and the president will not have the power to nominate somebody else.
Talking of which, why has President Ruto dragged his feet when it comes to reconstitution of IEBC?
He knows better. I've told you, anybody who prefers anarchy is anarchist and a dictator. I've said it before, and I don't want to repeat it because that is already water under the bridge. Because what is the reason? We don't have chairman of IBC because that is the person who is supposed to tell us the replacement of Gachagua meets the minimum requirement for deputy president or president for that particular matter. Of course, whether there is still need for university education or not, That has been the requirement in the Constitution until some rulings were done to the extent that you can be a governor without university education. So once that level reaches, then the president, after 14 days, he has no capacity to appoint anybody else.
So was NADCO report a hot air, especially when it comes to reconstitution of IEBC, because Raila Odinga was in the picture in the making of the report? We thought it will bring sooner than later the IEBC team. Why are we still not reaping the fruits from the NADCO report?
I don't know. And that's subject to another discussion. And I don't think the president is keen on following the due process because he likes shrouding everything in darkness. You remember the Adanis, whether it is electricity, whether it is airport, whether it is whatever, healthcare.
Health sector and all.
He's been doing it quietly. And we don't know why public participation is not involved. But it's a silver lining. I call it a silver lining because it will give us a chance when we take over the government to announce some of those things because they will be unconstitutional ab initio.
Come again, it will give you a chance when you take over the government.
Yeah, when we take over the next government.
You and probably Kalonzo Musyoka?
Many other people, even Matiang'i.
Do you have a Gen Z in that arrangement?
Gen Z, they will be integral part of our government.
Really?
Our job is just to advise. I used to wake up at 5 and I go to bed at 10. Nowadays, I go to bed possibly at 10 and I wake up at 7, which means there are 2 hours Gen Zs will work. When I'm not working, I'm still asleep. Yeah. So we need them. You remember Kenyatta 1, for those who don't know history, it was the youngest cabinet. Mzee was over 70, but his cabinet members, some of them were in their 20s, some in their 30s, and very few in their 40s. And he had only 1 or 2 above 50. That is the late Angaine and the late Mbiu Koinange.
You're talking about prospects of you forming the next government.
Yes.
But remember, we are seeing the reincarnation of the Pentagon. Do you think you, with Kalonzo Musyoka or other allies to you, can slay that giant, which seems to be high enough for anyone?
Well, it is not who will vote for Ruto. It is who will vote against Ruto. And who is that they are voting for in order to remove him. It is very simple. You see, people vote for 2 reasons, either for you or against you. So if I'm a candidate against you and they're voting against you, they'll vote for me.
Raila's factor will do less?
You know, Raila has demystified himself. He has totally demystified with this Adani thing. And moving in. Do you know the next deputy president name may be Raila's?
It has actually been floated.
Yeah.
Is it viable?
Well, for stabilizing in between now and 2027 is a very useful thing. I would advise the president to appoint Raila.
But is it sustainable?
No, for the intervening period, it's sustainable because the focus is in the Senate and National Assembly. So let's assume Gachagua will go with 60 MPs. Raila will come in with over 80 MPs. And those ones will be very noisy. Yeah. So it's sustainable for the intervening period. But that cannot win the next general election.
It won't?
It won't. Raila has been demystified. He built Ruto, Ruto has destroyed him. Yeah.
Are you living in denial of how big of a political infrastructure Raila Odinga is?
We've been in this country. I've gone through 7 elections myself. Lost 3, won 4. Please, if there is any consistent person in terms of analyzing political events, it is myself.
Yours truly.
Yeah, yeah. And I've done a bit of study about politics in Africa. Yeah.
But many are beating you for making the last move, which they feel was ill-informed, decamping Ruto's camp. Right now, you could be at the center of government.
In fact, now, I feel I was more justified than when I left. I left out of protest because of Trans Nzoia and his choice of running mate. Yeah. I've told you before. So I feel more justified. I'm relaxed.
You sleep at peace?
Oh, total peace, like a baby.
Just without a flag on your car?
No, I had it for 5 years during Kibaki, and I love it. All right. Yes.
There you have it. That point takes us to the wrap of today's conversation, discussing a raft of issues in the world of politics and governance, but of much importance, the impeachment that Deputy Rigathi Gachagua is trying to battle out to his favor. How about we now cross over to this insightful segment that you all have grown to embrace so quick? That is Heroes Corner with Honorable Kipruto Arab Kirwa. Today, Mashujaa Day is just 2-3 days away. Who is our hero?
Yeah, our hero comes from North Africa, a country that you people call Senegal, but we call it Senegal in the language that they like using, because the pronunciation is French. And the person I have in mind is a poet who ended up being a deputy in France. Deputy in France was like a position of an MP.
Oh, okay.
So he was an MP in France, but subsequently became president of Senegal. Leopold Sedar Senghor.
Leopold?
Sedar Senghor. A very serious poet. Somebody my height or slightly shorter than me. But he made a lot of history, being one of the best leaders in that particular region of Africa. And he himself, without any hesitation, decided to retire after serving certain terms in his country. He created this issue of two-term presidency, which is something that was followed keenly by Nyerere, and subsequently many other countries have done that. Well, born 1901, and I think he passed on...
I think 1906.
1906 and passed on 2001.
True.
That is a man of a lot of reputation, a lot of respect, both in Africa and in the rest of the world.
Leopold Sedar
Senghor. Yeah.
All right. And what do you make of the current president of Senegal, by the way?
Well, he's a nice young man. Fire. Yeah, he's a very nice man. I hope he will live the time that he has said. He set up very high bar. Yeah, coming from ordinary worker with the revenue authority of that country. And he became president, having come from jail. And his friend Sonko became his prime minister. I hope that partnership will work. It will not be like Rigathi Ruto.
You don't want such marriages?
No. Marriages must last. Yeah, and if you have no other reason, remember you met her when she was young. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
There you have it. That is Heroes Corner with Honorable Kipruto Arap Kirwa, just offering our debt of gratitude to personalities we feel have been of great impact to our country, Kenya, and also Africa at large, and even the global universe. Asante sana for your insights, Mheshimiwa.
It's my pleasure too.
All right. Until we meet next time, enjoy the rest of your viewing.